are you a sales leader or are you a sales manager? Or are you a little of both? Or how much are you of these two functions? So I think most of you do both things. You are leading a sales force, but of course you're also a manager that needs to control and follow up on the numbers and whether you're actually on the right track. Some years back, I heard about a study where a company went out and asked thousands of salespeople, how much would you be willing to pay for a review meeting with your manager? And they came up with a quite depressing result. I think the result was on average less than $1. I think in this week's episode, we will share some ideas with you that would make it more likely that they will say, maybe more than $1. But imagine that your salespeople will say, wow, a sales meeting, a review meeting with my manager is actually worth more than $100, maybe even more than $500. I think if you could do that, now you will be able to bring real value back to your organization. And I think when you do that, there's a bigger chance that you will make your salespeople a success. And I have already worked from this belief that if you can make your salespeople, all of them, a success, you will end up being an even greater success. And this is what we will be tapping into today under the theme of how can you work as a coach leading your sales force. Many managers spend review meetings on understanding where are we in relation to budget. And I totally get that that's an important and necessary part of your job. But I think also it's important to understand that every minute you spend on discussing where you are in terms of the budget and where are we beyond, where are we below budget, you're discussing the results of behaviors from the past. And then you could ask yourself, so how much can I actually change the behavior of the past? And I will share something which is not a secret. You can do nothing about the behaviors of the past. And the more time you spend with your salespeople discussing, in essence, the behavior of the past, the more reactive your salespeople will become. Because if they have this idea or feeling that every time they talk to you, they talk about something they can do nothing about, it doesn't create this proactive mindset you want in your salespeople. So I think today we will dive into how you can actually spend more time creating the future you want than discussing the past that didn't really live up to your expectation. Because I think that's the key to creating value in the meetings you are having with your salespeople. So if you want to build a proactive sales force or a growth mindset, here are some steps you can bring into the next review meeting you have with your salespeople. A sales meeting which no longer will be only about understanding the numbers and where you are, but will be much more about how to create the numbers you truly want for the future. And to do that, you need to start out by helping the salesperson you are having the one-to-one with to get into what you could call a growth mindset, into a mindset where they actually are capable of seeing the possibilities in the future. And you do that by focusing the first 10-15 minutes in the one-to-one on the previous successes. And you can do that by bringing in some very simple questions like, wow, which 2-3 projects have you really moved the last month? And how did you do that? What have been an example of a really great customer meeting and what made it great? How did you prepare? Which question did you ask in that meeting, which actually led you to have that good meeting? So, which strengths have you been able to develop over the last year? But by having questions like that, in the satisfaction selling method, we call these questions PS plus question, present state positive. The salesperson will start in a way to understand what they do well, where they have created value. And besides getting some awareness of what actually worked for them, you also shift the whole emotional state into a positive one. And from there, From there, you can bring them to the next level, which is really about bringing them into the future by asking, wow, so when we meet again next month, what would you like to have created? Where would you like to be with this project? And now you will get answers that truly represent what that person wants. And when you set outcomes like that, business are no longer business. Business become personal for that salesperson. And when you then top it up with a few more questions like, wow, how would you know that you have succeeded in getting there? You will start to help that salesperson build a future memory that would tell them that they're already a success, even though they haven't arrived there yet in reality. And when you have that, now you can move on to the next part, which is really about asking the salesperson, so what is it that you want to do to make sure that that will happen? Which resources do you already have? Is there anything I can do as your manager to really help you excel with this project? Or are there any other resources you need to really do what we have now agreed you will do the next month? And when you have a salesperson who both understand what they already do well, what they would like to create within the next month or two, and they also have some clear, tangible ideas of what they can do to actually move the needle, wow, you have a really, really strong foundation for success. And then I really recommend that you end up by asking this one question. What is the first step you need to take to really get this moving? You don't want your salespeople to leave the meeting with you with thousands of ideas in their head, because now they need to spend 1, 2, 3, 4 days figuring out how to sort it out. You want them to leave, with one tangible action they can start to do right after the meeting they have had with you. Because if they get started, it's much more easy for them to find the next step and the next step. And then you will have created value for that person in that meeting. Then you will end up being a manager with salespeople to say, wow, I would actually be willing to pay $500 for a meeting with my manager, because those meetings helps me get my commission much faster than I can do by myself. And now I think you have a right to actually show up as a sales manager in your organization, because you're not just controlling, you're not just pushing, you're actually helping your people produce the results they really want to produce. And I think that leads to what I would call sustainable business and healthy profit long term. And I think that's also why it's so important to see yourself as a coach or as a mentor when you're leading people. Because having someone who can ask these questions really help most people sort out their mind so that they can start to really focus on what makes the difference, instead of just running around being busy. And I think that's one of the crucial things if you want your sales team to be really not only effective, but also efficient, is to help them focus on what's most important, and then help them do that the right way so that they actually end up creating results for you, the organization, and themselves. So today we have talked about how you can actually start to create value when you have interaction with your salespeople. And you do that by shifting from thinking yourself as a manager to becoming much more a coach. And when you're doing that, you will end up actually creating value, not just for yourself, but for everyone involved. And if you want to really do this, start out small. You can use this even when you have small interaction with your people at the coffee machine. Say, wow, so what have been the greatest sales meeting you had yesterday? What happened? Okay. Who are you planning to meet on Thursday this week? What would you do to make it that a great meeting? And what's the first thing you want to do to actually make sure that happens? So this structure is something you can use when you have a full hour meeting one-to-one, or even if you just have maybe 2-3 minutes. And I promise you that if you do this every time you interact with your salespeople, they will start to have a growth mindset. They will start to think in a different way. And I think really it's our thinking over time that leads to the behavior you would like to see more in your organization. And then the interesting thing here is that when you use this frame, when you interact with the customers, you're basically turning any meeting you have with your salespeople into a sales training, because it's the same type of question you would like them to ask their customers. So even though it's a different context, even though it's a different frame, you will embed these high quality questions into them, because salespeople, they cannot not model what you're doing. It's a very powerful teaching strategy. We call it monkey see, monkey do. And I think, again, this will help you transform your sales organization into a really high-performance sales organization. I hope you have enjoyed this week's inspiration, and I really look forward to see you again next week. And if you have liked what you've seen and you want to be reminded, please go and subscribe, like, and share a comment, or maybe even a question if you have that. And I will be happy to help you on your journey to becoming a great sales coach. Thank you for this week.